Good morning, everybody. I'm Jenny Ridgewell, and we're all here because we're passionate about food. And I'm probably one of the oldest people that's been teaching food still alive. And the first slide starts me off with a reminder about Spam. Spam in the 1970s, when I started teaching, was a popular deep fried battered product used in school for school meals. And I didn't actually use it in the classroom. One of the things when I started teaching in my second school was the caretaker wanted to know what name I wanted on a door. So at the time I was teaching housecraft. I was also teaching domestic science. I'd come from teaching home economics, but what do we call it now? Is it cookery? Is it food technology? Is it food or nutrition? I think it's important to know what name is on our doors, because when it comes to the press, they want to know what's being taught. And they'll say home economics is not being taught in school. Domestic science is not being taught in school. And it's because we've changed our names so often. So we need some clarity on that. This is a drawing done by Dave. Any of you ever seen my books that were produced by Ridgewell Press? Dave was the artist. He's a head of CDT, or was head of CDT, and now he's head of DT in a big London school. And he's brilliant at surmising what things look like. So when I first started teaching in ILEA, we had help, we had money so everybody could cook because they believed that all children should be cooking. And it worked really well. I then moved to a different authority and I had £50 a year budget and big classes, and I had no help. So if you haven't got help, I think you need to ask what other subjects have got help in the classroom. And if you haven't got it, why not? Because that's discrimination. You know, there's a huge amount to do in a food room, and I was on my knees at the end of the day in the twin tub with the gas-fired dryer, hanging stuff out, cleaning the ovens, stuff like that. And in the end, I got help, fortunately. When I started teaching in 1970, it was the first time that boys took cooking. And the Sex Discrimination Act in 1975 let boys take the lessons. This is Dave's picture. It's meant to be a 1970s boy. And you'll see on the right that this is from Good Housekeeping's Cooking is Fun, which was my Bible, 1970. Can you see where it says, high tea for 4 people prepared by 2 girls? Most of my classes in the school I went to had a lot of boys in them. And the textbooks were appalling in that they were talking about housewives and stuff like that. So in 1981, the cookery exams taken at the time, 7% boys, 93% girls. By 2019, the GCSE food entries, 34% boys, male, 66% girls. So there's still an imbalance. And if you look at the important male people in our food business, you've got Roy, you've got people like Nigel Slater, you've got Jamie Oliver. We need to get them more involved to encourage a balance. On the left of your screen, you can see the 1970s question paper that I had to get my boys to learn to answer. Suggest 2 dinners for a housewife for a dinner cooked quickly on her return from shopping. Be a dinner which can be mainly left cooking while she is out. No suggestion that this woman works, no suggestion that she has a partner, no suggestion that people are involved. It's a long piece of history that I think affects the attitude to food now. Louise Davis and myself got together, I think it was, Louise can answer this, may have been in 1986. We were both working in a London school, and we worked on a series for skills in home economics. Again, look at the words getting mixed up. Skills in home economics technology. That was written by us in 1989. And Louise and I were both really careful about briefing Heinemann about this artwork. If you look on the left, right, you can see a picture of how we wanted all included, you know, 2 boys, 2 girls. Look at the power dynamics. The girl is using the clipboard. The boy is writing something. Multicultural, diverse Britain. So here, you know, our choice of breads, looking at pita bread, croissants, baguettes, cottage loaves, naan, chapatis, making sure we were inclusive. At the same time, the exam questions, where I was teaching in London, were asking, what do you serve with roast lamb? You know, to teach that to Afro-Caribbean students, it's not on their agenda. So one of the things I think is really important as we move forward is to respect and value food from multicultural Britain and to really pay attention to diversity. You know, it really enriches our work. Heinemann, when they had to brief for all their textbooks, used Louise's and my textbooks as an example of how we've got people in wheelchairs, how we got the sex balance right, and how we'd use diversity. This is a big question that I can see on the Food Teachers Centre, and well done, Louise, and all of the team who are creating such a dynamic Facebook page. Who pays for the food? So in 1970, when I started ILEA, we provided the ingredients because they believed that all students should take part in food lessons. You know, you didn't have to pay for art, you didn't have to pay for science, you didn't have to, I mean, there are other subjects you didn't have to pay for. So in 1972, it changed when I moved to a different authority. And I got lumbered with doing the governor's tea, which made me really cross. But I used it to, I hope, to my advantage. It gave me some ingredients because I had a £50 a year budget for books, equipment and ingredients. And so if I made an elaborate, we made an elaborate governor's tea, I had ingredients left in my store cupboard. I gradually got to know the headmaster and he could see how hard the work was. They left one of these trolleys outside my room for me to wash up the next morning. A few weeks after that, I put forward a proposal for more money and I wanted the teas made by the school caterers. At the same time, the games department were getting me to do the washing in my room. They said the previous teacher had washed all the football shirts. And so I'd do it. I did it once and then I insisted they got their own washing machine. These are all challenges that I was faced in 1972. I don't know whether you're still facing them. Okay, I'm going to have a rant. I've put it on my blog this morning, but I've been ranting about it for ages. When did you last make a cream horn? And I know it's one of the high skills in the exam, one of the exam boards. I believe, if I look carefully, no, I won't look carefully. Anyway, it's listed. When did you last make a cream horn? Well, I made those simply because I found these cream horn tins in my local antique shop. They'd labelled them as piping tubes. They didn't even know what they were. So these fossilised things, I've got 3 of them. I use them to make cream horns. Flaky pastry, puff pastry, rough puff pastry drove me mad when I was teaching in 1972 in a hot room. The boys ended up with a slimy hot mess of high fat pastry, and with the bits that were left, we round them round a cream horn tin and filled them with jam and cream. Okay, they're delicious. And last night I used my nutrition program, the BNF has got one as well, to analyse Paul Hollywood's cream horn recipe. Each cream horn has 469 calories. It provides the reference intake for the fat content of 1 provides 105% of your reference intake and 23% of your energy if you're an adult. And I just gasp. the GCSE subjects, it's called food and nutrition. I really think cream horns should join my cream horn tins and be fossilized back in the 70s when I taught them. I also noticed on the one of the exam boards, they had millionaire shortbread. So again, I went back to Paul Hollywood and got his recipe last night. Each piece had 1,600 calories. I just think this is a nonsense. You know, I'm overweight. Some of the country is overweight. We need to be aware of what's going on. And if you're teaching food and nutrition, then I really think this can be a piece of history along with me. It was done. Sorry if that upsets people. I've sped through, so this is what's happening now. And we need to look at the incredible diversity of what's going on and see the opportunities for skills. Again, I've put on my blog 2 instances where I've interviewed an Indian lady talking about the skill of making dal, chapatis, rice and raita. And she's explained about the skill needed to temper the spices. Dal, you can't just tip it in a saucepan and make it. It's a really highly skilled dish to make it delicious. And it's not about it just looking la-la. It's got to taste delicious and be edible. And I also feel we should be teaching students things that they need to make for a future life. I'll hold my hand up and say, Angel Delight, 1970s. I made them make Angel Delight tart. I bought the tart cases and they made up the Angel Delight. They could choose their own flavour. My favourite is butterscotch. And it's a sort of alchemy of chemistry. Goodness knows, I mean, I know what it contains, sort of, and it did have some milk in it. And I got a letter from a parent saying, I thought you were supposed to teach them to cook, not to open packets. So I've taught them cream horns and I taught them Angel Delight tart. But I've listed there a range of ideas. You know, another Chloe is also on my website. She is an expert on Middle East and meze and has some delicious suggestions, which you can link to her website, on all the things you can make with dips and making different breads. So I will ask, if you think it's appropriate, I will ask some of the Guild of Food Writers if they can suggest multi-skilled things that are delicious, that make a composite meal that will be useful for the future. We also need to be more aware of sustainability and think about eating less meat. So these are issues that need to be thought about. I mean, this is a Japanese picture. I just found it. But I appreciate, you know, it's expensive, although it's got lots of fruit and vegetables and things in it. But it's just an illustration of one of the things that you can make. But I think we need to think away from what was going on. Last night, I also did an analysis of the exam boards of how they'd chosen their skills. And so I had EDUCAS, AQA, these high-level skills. Again, when I was teaching boys who'd come to me in year 10 and 11, so they hadn't done anything before, I was trying to get them highly skilled, making them make these pastries and difficult things. And they got in such a mess, so that one, Graham he was called, he was making Cornish pasties, and in the end he put it all in a bowl, added water and rolled it out. And he sort of made a Cornish pasty pizza. It was sort of all right, but it wasn't quite, you know, and I wish I'd said to them, make something delicious that's simpler and you can achieve an edible result. So I did this analysis of what they've chosen, and I broke it down into how many sweet dishes, how many British dishes and what diverse choices they'd chosen based upon my thoughts. Educas had 43% sweet dishes in their high skills. AQA had 50%, OCR had 47%. The choice of British dishes, the things I was teaching 51 years ago, Educas 30, AQA 38, OCR 32. Diversity choice, Educas 21, AQA 12, OCR 21. I know lemon meringue pie is a favourite, but I think it's extremely hard to make in an hour. You have to blast the meringue in the oven, and also, you know, the corn flour in the lemon filling goes through issues when you reheat it, and it begins to leak out of the pastry and make everything wet, which I marked people down until I wrote a book on modified starch and realised that I told them how to do it that way. AQA has got several flaky pastry recipes in their high skill choice. I'd like to see that changed. OCR has got cream horns. Please, please, let it go. This is a piece of history that in 1970 we had metrication, and that's 51 years ago. These photographs are taken in this year, just recently. Waitrose is still selling milk by the pint, 568 millilitres. My local greengrocer is still selling tomatoes by the pound. The children I taught in 1970 will be 61 years old or older, or much older. So some things don't change, and I think we need to look at that. I think I've said all that I want to say, but well done all of you. You work really hard. It's a challenging subject, but students really love it. It's very important. And with the Food Teachers Centre, the BNF, you've got powerful bodies working with you to effect change. This is a bit of promotion, and I'm saying, why does all of this matter? Because some things aren't changing. The subject name, what is it? Are students still making the high-fat dishes that I cooked in the 70s? Are we valuing multicultural dishes, and are boys taking GCSE? If I've written my book, I taught them to cook. I've had some wonderful comments and people remembering that how challenging but how fabulous it is to teach food. And they've asked me to write. This is 1 year in a cooking year in 1972, when everything was changing, and they've asked me to write the sequence. So I am doing that now and realizing our subject never stops. We are challenged all the time, but that's great. Thank you.